Gee, Steve, what are we going to do tonight?
Same thing we do every podcast. Tell him how we sees it.
What you see before you, ladies and gentlemen, is a curious little potion known as Felix Felicis. But it is more commonly referred to as...
Liquid luck.
Yes, Miss Granger. Liquid luck. Desperately tricky to make, disastrous should you get it wrong. One sip and you will find that all of your endeavors succeed. At least until the effects wear off. So, this is what I offer each of you today. One tiny vial of liquid luck to the student who, in the hour that remains, manages to brew an acceptable draught of living death. The recipes for which can be found on page 10 of your books. I should point out, however, only once did a student manage to brew a potion of sufficient quality to claim this prize. Nevertheless, good luck to you all. Let the brewing commence.
Here we go. It's How He Sees It, episode 280. 280. I was going to say 281, but it's 280. I wrote
280. You're getting ahead of yourself.
I know. It is. It's been a long day. But that's okay, because now we're into it, and we're here to cover Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Very, very interesting. I know this movie, right? But I was surprised when I watched it again that I had forgotten some of this movie. It's almost like I was thinking, why is it this is a great movie and everything in the series, but why is it I just feel like I don't know every scene? And I realized what it is. Do you guys feel like when you go to watch Harry Potter, other than you both seeing this is your first time through, that you kind of start with the beginning and feel like you have to start at 1 and work your way up? You can't just jump in the middle of 4 or 5 or 6 and just kind of jump in and watch it as an individual. And I was like, I think that's the case because I've probably seen 1 more than any.
Oh, really?
2 and 3. Yeah. And I think it's because I do that a lot is I'll just jump in and watch the first one thinking I'm going to, over the next couple of weeks or whatever, run through them again. Or in the case of, I've done this with my daughters once in a while where we just marathon that shit. But by the time you get to 5 and 6 and 7, and I said 7, because of the break in the movies, you're harried out, right? You're just no more Potter to give.
Yeah, I think I only saw 6 and 7 once before covering it. I watched it twice again this time, but this is fairly new to me. It's been 16 years since it came out in the theaters.
That's what I mean. But
yeah, I don't.
Has it been that long?
2009. Yeah. And it is now 2025. So yes.
I think you're right, Noah. Like, I have never sat down and rewatched them all.
Right.
It was, we watched them when they came out, and then after we finished reading the books to Claire, we watched them all again, and then there were ones that she liked, specifically 3 and 4, and she just watched those over and over and over and over. So I don't think I ever got a chance to watch any of the rest of them much again.
Yeah. And to me, I feel like the early one, especially the first one, has a very Christmassy feel to it. So I think I watched that one almost.
I agree more so than the others. Yeah.
Christmas time.
Yeah.
Well, and they're more family oriented, those first ones too. You can watch them with younger kids without feeling like you have to, cover their eyes or.
Yeah.
And speaking of Christmas, at Christmas time, they show up. The first 3 of them show up on cable nonstop. So
yeah.
They're just kind of there in the background.
Yeah.
Well, now they're full time. Now they're full time on HBO and on Peacock, so you can pretty much watch them at your leisure.
Well, that's with a lot of things. We discussed this. So for those that don't know, we had to postpone our normal viewing night not viewing night, but our recording night from Wednesday to Thursday, because me and Steve got to do a very special thing last night, which was so cool. We went and saw Goonies in the theater.
Oh wow!
40th anniversary, right?
Yeah, my daughter, who happens to work now in the Petaluma Theater and who's soon hopefully to be a manager, saw it, called, got a hold of me and said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, do duck swim," and and she's like, "Okay, well," and so yeah, we went to, and I have to say, it fucking holds up. Like all the bits were hitting, everything was good, and it might have been the vibe was in there. Everybody was in there because they wanted to see it. It was good
time. Energy. Yeah.
So, it was a lot of fun. And so I was really stoked, and it made me start thinking, I'm like, well, and now that she's going to be working there, I was like, I'm going to have to keep an eye out for some of these other retro throwbacks and stuff like that playing in the theater, see how it works out.
I was surprised. I asked her if when how old she was when you made her watch it. She's like, "Oh no, I watched this on my own and I loved it. I watched it over and over again." So I guess that's just runs in your blood, the Goonies blood.
Yeah. Well, the Goonies never die. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, I have an interesting tidbit of information about that movie too. I've never seen it.
Oh my God. Shut up. Are you kidding me?
Well, watch it and then go back a couple years and check out our podcast because we covered it already.
I know. A lot of people have covered it. A lot of the podcasts I listen to have covered it.
I've got an interesting tidbit.
You haven't either?
Andrew and I went and saw it in the theaters because we were interested in, who directed that? Was it Spielberg?
No, it was Donner. It was Superman.
Oh, okay. So it must.
Wasn't Spielberg involved in the production or something?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
he's got his name right at the very beginning.
Richard.
Oh, he does. Okay.
Richard Donner. In fact, that's where they got the rights for the theme, for the Superman theme, because there's one point where that kicks into the movie. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. So anyway, we went there because Spielberg was involved and all that, and I have to be honest. I think I was a couple years too old. I did not care for it.
I get that. It does have a kid's vibe, but
I've never watched it again. I'm sorry, Noah. And I know people. And the thing is, it's not like, Gen Z likes it. I mean, people like 3 years younger than me love it.
Yeah.
And I think I was just.
I was 14 when it came out, so I was the right target age.
Andrew and I were in college, so
I was physically 14. I was probably mentally and still 6, so it really hit perfect. I watched this shit. And Steve, you can close your ears on this one. This might have been the first VHS I stole from a Blockbuster.
Nice.
So how do you steal a VHS? Because don't you have to take the box up and they give it to you, and then how do you get away without returning it? Or how do you get it?
Okay, I'm going to give you my secret because
I can tell you some secrets. I know them all.
So the way I got this one, and I remember it specifically, was they had a basket behind the counter that you slide them down into, but you could kind of see from the side. And so you just wait till someone's not looking and you reach around and grab it. And I knew I don't know whose it was. It wasn't mine that I had rented. It was someone else's that just basically never got to return it. And so, yeah.
You not only stole it, you hung some stranger out to dry. They had
already returned it. Oh, they probably scanned it back in yet.
Exactly.
No.
The best theft I remember is when someone rented 4 Super Nintendo games, and basically they took them home and they popped them open. They slid on the little security strip. They opened them up. They took the chip out and then put a chip for some other stupid game in and returned them all. And it wasn't, and they sit on the shelves for another couple of weeks, and it isn't until someone rents them out and then comes back and says, "Hey, this isn't this game." You have to. I mean, you can finally piece it back to the customer, and then we ended up doing that, and it turned out it was their kids that did it, and we charged their credit card. And,
sure,
that's kind of genius, actually.
Yeah, no. But yeah, this is one of the first VH movies that I watched all the time, and I watched it every time it came on. It was one of my favorite movies as a youth, all the way through. And I do remember showing my daughters it when they were kind of in that same age grade. They were not ready for it, or just were way more mature than me, because they looked at me after I showed it and they were like, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
One thing that and we talked about this during the podcast that I loved so much about this movie. It was a little young for me. The kids were a little obnoxious, but one thing the director did so well is the way their communication. They're just always talking all over themselves, and it felt so real. It's like when you put 5 kids together and they're having a conversation, you're not going to hear one person at a time, and that's something they captured really well. This kind of this chaos of conversation, and yet it kept the narrative going forward with this great adventure they were on. So I always liked that.
And I have to say, in the Half-Blood Prince, they did that also very well, that they captured kind of what was going on in the moment. This is one of the ones that I would say is probably, at least the first half, is very well shot and very cinematic to me. I was very impressed, and almost to the point where I was like, man, I forgot how good this was with the way that it looked and was acted and everything like that. I don't know if maybe it's the Golden Trio are now a little bit older. They're kind of getting into their acting wings and kind of made it a little bit better for them. Just something about it really hit differently.
The book is a little bit more subdued. The material is a little bit more mature. They're at an age where they're not going through their, it's not all about this crazy mystery adventure, Scooby-Doo adventure they're on. There's more going on. There's more at stakes. And at the same time, it does seem a little bit more subdued. In the book, I think, did you get a chance to read the book or listen to the book?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
I did too. And this, I think it's a good book, but it's a little bit different than the others in that it's just not full of too much action adventure. It's not that they all are, but this one just seemed a little bit more slower paced. It's still interesting and fascinating, but that's harder in a movie. You don't have the content necessarily or the pace. It makes it a little bit more challenging. But I agree. I think especially the first half really hooked me. I liked the rhythm of it, and it kept itself really engaging.
So the other thing I found out about this too is specifically Daniel Radcliffe and maybe some of the others were old enough to drink at this point and started to have a little bit of an alcohol addiction and problem while shooting this. And I don't understand why that is, but I know where they would come from because they probably got some great cocktails from listening to us before. Now we're going to give them some great cocktails to go on from this one. So what we do here on How He Sees is we create a cocktail or a drink that we, link to whatever it is we're watching, and now we're going to do it to the Half-Blood Prince. And I'm going to start with you, Bo, because I haven't seen yours yet, and I'm curious what you got.
I just sent the. I have to get the pictures later because it has to be a little compilation because it's just what I'm putting together here. So
gotcha.
So what I have put together is the Drought of Living Death. Drought of Living Death is 1/4 ounce of wormwood. Rinse the glass with it. 2 1/4 ounces is asphodel root, 4 ounces of valerian root, 5 sapphorus beans, sapphorus beans, I can't even pronounce that one, as a garnish, and sloth bear brain as a garnish. Now, it's very hard to get all of these things except for the wormwood. So what I did was, for the wormwood, I used absinthe. For the asphodel root, I used potato vodka, which is also a root, derived from a root. Valerian root, I used root beer, actually birch beer, also derived from a root. Sloth brain. There's actually a sloth bear. Sloths are endangered. You can't kill them, but sloth bears are imaginary. So you can kill them whenever you want and get some brain. I used gummy bears for that. And then for the sapphorus beans, or however you say it, I used jelly bellies.
Nice.
So, cheers.
Nice. And look, it's half full of blood. It looks like the cup.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And then for my beer this week, I did a half and half. Now, most people know the half and half as a black and tan.
Yep.
Yes.
But when we were in Ireland, we found that it's actually kind of a derogatory term there, because during the Irish Revolution, the troops that were oppressing the people going for independence were called the black and tan. The army, the soldiers were called the black and tan because they wore black and tan. So you don't order a black and tan in Ireland, you order a half and half.
Got it.
So I'm going to be putting a black and tan together about half, whenever I get done with this thing. And that's why the compilation of pictures, because normally I take the pictures like of just, and I don't mix the cocktail up, because I have some interesting garnish, and then I have the black and tan. I'm going to put together like a little.
So let me ask you, what are you doing
montage for you?
Your little half and half, because I know that some people are very stickler about what they want theirs to be from.
I'm going traditional Harp and Guinness. I mean, just the Harp and Guinness are the traditional ones. Sometimes I'll do Harp and Bass, but usually I'll do Harp and Guinness when I get one.
Yeah. So, okay. That's the one.
Is that your keyboard again? That's making all that.
No, I have a pen. It's a pen. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll stop. It was a pen. I'm sorry. I was clicking a pen.
I was going to say so. I was going to work it into my response, and then Steve got ahead of me. So, yeah, he's one of those pen junkies that when you get in a meeting, they just go crazy. It's like,
I got yelled at on a train in New York once for that.
I can see it.
She's like, a woman comes over to me. She goes, "Would you please stop that?" And then, not 20 minutes later, I look at her and she's laying 3 across with no shoes on, with her feet on the seat of the train. So I walk up to her. I'm like, "Excuse me, could you please keep your feet off of the seats?"
And then you click at her as you walk away. Nice. All right, well, good stuff. Nice, Bo. I like that you took the kind of took the recipe from the movie and went into it. Good for you. All right,
thanks.
Go ahead, Nina. What do you got for us?
Well, I found online some Harry Potter fan made up a drink called the Half-Blood Prince, which looks very bloody, as you can see. It's
yes.
It's 1.5 ounces of bourbon, a half ounce of Chambord, 2 ounces of pomegranate juice, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, and like a dash of maple syrup. They said to use a teaspoon, but I'm like, that's too much maple syrup. So that's the only change I made. And I haven't tasted it yet, so let me give it a try.
Yeah, I hadn't tasted mine yet either, so.
That's interesting. The pomegranate's very tart, and then you got the smokiness of the bourbon. So it's different.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Sure it's something I'd seek out, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I will tell you this. Bo knows this because I texted him and my sister. I had to order the pomegranate juice from the grocery store, and I'm like, this is how you know you have a male DoorDash shopper, because last week when I ordered it, you know how they send you substitutions? Like, they don't have this. Do you want this instead? And it's like, they don't have pomegranate juice. Would you like cold pressed kale green juice instead? And I'm like, in what universe is that? Did you just like get to the shelf and see, no pomegranate, and grab the first bottle that fell into your hand? I mean, it's ridiculous. But anyway, they had it this week. So I'm good.
I will, to his defense, to a small bit of defense to him, potentially. I think Instacart auto-generates some of those. They don't totally leave it up to the drive to the picker.
The thing is, I don't think. I said DoorDash, and it's not DoorDash. It's
DoorDash. Sorry.
It's not. I don't think it's actually DoorDash. I think DoorDash does the driving, but I think the picking is done by the store.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a big grocery store.
That's what Total Wine and More does in our area. Total Wine and More, you order from them, but then DoorDash ends up being the deliverer.
Interesting.
I'll tell you this. I started getting the deliveries during the pandemic just because it was easier than driving all the way over there and giving myself an anxiety attack. And I hated grocery shopping anyway, and it's the greatest. I hope they never get rid of it, because it's like as I run out of stuff, I just go onto my phone and it's like, okay, we need brown sugar or whatever, and we're good, So anyway,
I can see that.
Yeah.
All right. Because I know Steve's got another story to give us. I'm gonna jump in and give you mine.
Wow.
So I waited till the very last minute to nail down my drink. So it's not very spectacular, but it has a good meaning behind it, because this is the horniest of the Harry Potter movies.
You're not talking about the horntail. You're talking about
yes, exactly. And
Talking
so,
about adolescence.
yeah. So I mean, they're in their sixth year. That's that junior. They're getting those feels for each other, kind of figuring it out. And so I call this one Wizards Be Snoggin'. And so basically, you get the lavender brown all over Ron, loving it, and then you get the tirade with Hermione because she finally shows that she really is into Ron, and he can't see it because he's an idiot, or just a guy, I should say. We finally kind of get the love between Ginny and Harry, which is kind of cool. And so, but everybody be kissing in this. So I wanted to go with something of that. And I started looking around. I saw the first kiss and different things and a lot of different ones. And I kind of picked and choose from different ones I saw and thought of a couple ingredients. And then got home literally with about 10 minutes to get into this. Had an idea. I wanted to start with a London Dry gin just because they're in London for part of this. And I was like, I'll go with a London Dry gin. Threw that in there and I'm like, what makes a good kissing? It's got to be, to be able to get a girl to kiss you got to be velvety smooth. So I went with some velvet flirtum. And so I went with 2 ounces of the gin, 1 ounce of the velvet flirtum. And I go, what would a girl want in a kiss? And she, strawberries always come to mind. So I threw in 1 ounce of strawberry daiquiri mix. Mixed those together, threw it in a cup. I topped it with a ginger ale just to give it a kind of sweet bubbliness to it. And that is basically what it is. I made it double, so that's why my glass looks so big in the picture. But it's just a nice, simple drink. And it's all about Wizards Be Snoggin',
Put your lips on that drink and tell us how it tastes.
I actually really like it.
Did you give it some tongue?
I did. And it gave me some back. It's got a nice mouthfeel to it,
Oh, okay.
You got some braces?
I learned that.
You got some braces in there? Sorry, that's a Goonies reference.
A Goonies reference. So yeah, I had to go with that. I was surprised. I was, I know what Steve's going to do, so I guess I'll wait. I'll let everybody hear what Steve has to do, and then I'll talk about what I thought everybody was going to do for a cocktail.
Oh, okay.
Give us what you got, Steve.
That's right, because we had talked about that earlier about
Yep.
being liquid luck that we would probably go down that
Exactly.
that round. Coincidentally, I started in the same place that Nina did. My cocktail started with the Half-Blood Prince cocktail I found online. I thought, oh, this is an interesting and it looks like some really good ingredients. But what I decided to do was turn it into a page in a potions book. So I created a page. I put this whole recipe on the page, and then I went to town like the Half-Blood Prince did and annotated it. So if you look at the picture, you'll see there's actually a page that looks like it's ripped out of the Advanced Potion Making book. And I gave it a different name that I thought was kind of fun. I wanted to turn it into more of a potion. So I called it Sanguaris Remordia, which is Latin for bloody remorse. And it's an elixir that conjures the sharpest memories of a past mistake, rekindling deep remorse, but also clarity. It's used by some in secret to burn away emotional numbness, to feel again at great cost. I thought this idea of just, when you want to drink your pain away, that's kind of what you end up doing.
I do that quite a bit.
Because Wizard will do anything but go to therapy.
Yes. So I started with the cocktail that Nina did, the pomegranate juice and the bourbon and the raspberry liqueur, the Chambord lemon juice, the maple syrup, the pomegranate, and I tore it all up. I went Half-Blood Prince on it and crossed it all out. Instead, I went, rather than a quarter cup of pomegranate juice, I said half ounce. I crossed that out. I don't know. You got to look at the picture to kind of have a little fun with it, because I said that's too juicy. You got to have a half ounce. And then bourbon, use rye because it's sharper and darker. And instead of raspberry liqueur, I went with the black currant liqueur. I used cassis. And then I said it needs chartreuse, quarter ounce. And then I said, okay, instead of shaking all the liquid in the tin, instead you got to start by mashing some of the tin of the arrows, the pomegranate arrows in the tin before adding the liquid. and don't throw them in for garnish. You want to keep it pure. So if you check out the picture, you'll get a sense of the picture of how I kind of turned it into a Half-Blood Prince cocktail, or like I don't know, if you run it through if you've got like a computer that you can send a potion through on one side and come out on the other end, and it's been annotated by the Half-Blood Prince. That was the idea. So I had a little fun with it. No real story. What?
Yeah, I saw your picture and I was like, oh, he's going for the book, and I'm like, and that's great because that is a huge part of both the movie and the book. I think we get more of it in the book.
You get more of it in the book, and I love it. I kind of wanted a little bit more of it in the movie, but it's a big part of it. It's certainly a big part of where the title comes from.
The title. Exactly, and I'm glad you did that because that was kind of the most interesting part of the book. In a way, was the Half-Blood Prince, who it was, that was the mystery, and what else was it going to come up with in the strife it caused between, the Golden Trio.
In the book, though, you actually get to find out where the Half-Blood Prince, the name, actually comes from too, because why he calls himself that, where Prince comes from, why he's a half-blood.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, and it's funny. I know they talked about that in the book, and for those that don't know, Hermione went on a library excursion like she tends to do, and found a reference to Snape's mother, whose original surname was Prince.
Yes.
And so,
but she didn't know it was Snape's mother at the time. She just found someone that.
Well, no, I think.
They didn't put put that together until the end.
Till later,
when
right?
he finally reveals that he's the Half-Blood Prince.
But I also wonder if it also isn't just calling himself the Prince. Like he's a little pompousy like that.
Oh, sure, because especially because his he was associating with Voldemort as the Dark Lord, and so being the Prince, kind of a second in
I didn't even
command
think about that one, but that's
sense.
even better. That's cool. I just in the podcast I listen to, there's a couple people that just can nail the tone of Snape when they do it, and I want to try it, but I would blow it. But I just love when it's like I'm use my own spells against me and stuff like that. I was like, oh, he's just.
I saw something online which I found interesting when someone talking about Snape, how people who identify more with Snape from the movies versus people who identify with Snape from the books. And in the movies, there's much more likability. We love Alan Rickman and his portrayal. There's something we're drawn towards. There's an empathy we have for him. There's things that are going on behind that. Whereas in the book, he's slimy, and there's more of a hatred towards him. I found that interesting to see that, Snape's portrayal in the movie is very different, but a lot of people gravitate because Alan Rickman's such a presence and such a great.
I know why that is. Is because in the books we get so much more from Harry's side of the story in the inner monologue and the inner thoughts of Harry, and Harry hates Snape so much so that I think that's why Snape is so dastardly in the books compared to the movies. And you're right, Alan Rickman, it just nails him so perfectly. Matter of fact,
well, does he though? I mean, he's created something that's different than the books, so it's not. I disagree.
Did he though?
Perfect. I guess I disagree that it's he nails it, but I do think he puts on an epic performance. I just don't think it's synonymous necessarily with the book.
Well, no, that's what I mean, though. That's why I think the difference is I think in the movies, Alan Rickman does do a great service and is probably more what the real Snape is like. In the books, though,
I don't know. What does that mean? That's what the.
Well, here's what I'm saying, though. Here's what I'm saying is in movies, right? And this is the hard time to go between movies and books is you don't get the inner dialogue. So we don't get Harry's inner dialogue and hate. We get more of what everybody kind of sees. He is a shit in the movies, right? But I don't even say he's a lovable shit. He's still a shit. But he's likable because he's so well. He's a villain you can like. People that like Draco And there's fucking tons of people like Draco. How do you like Draco? He's a fucking snotty little shit. Like, I would beat the fuck out of that kid if I was still in school. Like, I don't get where people like him. But again, in the movies, he's a cute little kid, and and he's got his personality and stuff. But in the books, he's even worse because we're getting everything from Harry's point of view. Right? That's where the movies.
You're saying the movies we get it?
No, in the books we get 90% of stuff from Harry's point of view. So his visceral hate for Snape and for Draco is so much stronger in the books that they bleed over to the characters.
Yeah, in fact, the movie I found a little bit distracting in that it actually had some scenes that just followed Malfoy, which the book did not. You know, you follow Malfoy into the room of requirement when he's trying to mess with the bookcase, you know, or the whatever that thing that's trying to transport it. I don't know but that's stuff that's not in the book. That's something that's kind of alluded to, but it's all, again, you see everything from Harry's point of view, not from. So that was a added scene to kind of add more context.
This movie had a lot of added scenes that in some of them, and one of my. This is probably, and I was going to bring this up. One of my least likable scenes from this movie, even though it's cinematically very entertaining and a good scene, I don't like it because it absolutely has nothing to do with the books. It's completely out of the books. It actually goes against everything in the books, and that's when Harry is at the Weasley's home for Christmas. And they're attacked by the Death Eaters.
Yeah, that whole action sequence is made up. Yeah.
And
really?
And I don't want to spoil things for the next movie, but then it doesn't even carry through until the rest of it. It's like everything. It's like, oh, they lost their house, and you get the great moment where Arthur comes up to the mom and it's like, oh, and holds her and everything, and you get this moment, but it really. It doesn't bring anything to the movie.
So to me, I think the movie fell a little bit apart at the end because the pacing suffered.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it needed something that was a little more climactic. And in the book,
wait. Dumbledore dying is not a great climactic ending.
It from a pacing standpoint, it didn't feel very
because they didn't do the battle. They didn't do the battle that was. Yeah, they decided to do a fucking fake battle that should have never happened.
They didn't do a battle, and maybe that was something they said. Well, maybe if we're going to get the Dumbledore death at the end, and the whole battle with the undead coming out at the end, let's add something in the middle to kind of bring a little action to it to keep the pacing up. That might have been their thinking. They might have even gone back and done that, after the fact when screen test audiences thought it was a little bit of a dull ride. I don't know.
Those are dull audiences because that was a bad move. I think. I think you're right. I think the ending did need something more. I wish I would have had that big battle at the end rather than that didn't do anything and doesn't have any consequences going forward. Even where the last one does. They actually have the big battle with the Death Eaters once they get into Hogwarts. And
I would have liked to have, if they were going to add something, I think I would have liked to see the battle at the end with where the kids were more involved and see something where Hermione and Ron had a moment where Ron had to put himself in danger for Hermione or something to kind of represent something that had been going on throughout the whole movie, kind of lend some visual credence to his real love for her that he wasn't able to come to terms with. Maybe they do that. I don't remember the last book yet. Maybe that's something that they address more in that. But I would have liked to have seen that as kind of a climax to their story and a way to elevate the action in the end to kind of bring it up a little bit.
Even better, what would have been better is to cut that action scene and give us more of Dumbledore's memories and his teaching, his private lessons with Harry and going back in the Tom Riddle.
I like this. To me, this movie was the best performance from Dumbledore.
Yes,
they
you're
really built on the relationship with Dumbledore and Harry, just probably because they knew they were killing him off in the end. They have to make that mean something. But I really thought the actor stepped into
Finally-
Michael Gambon, had made his presence known. This is
He finally acted like Dumbledore too. He finally was kind of more of a Dumbledore character. But I would have liked to seen, I think we got one or I don't even want to call it a throwback, but one memory jump in where they learn about Tom Riddle from the orphanage. But there was so many more, like in the book, where they go back and learn that, about Tom Riddle's parents, right? And before he even gets to Hogwarts, some of the more stuff, and just that was so interesting in the book and so well done. I think there's 7 of them in the books, and we get 1 in the movie.
You get 2, right?
2?
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I think you get 2. Well, you get the one.
Oh, we get the Slughorn one. We get the Slughorn one.
That's critical to everything.
Yeah, and that had to be in the story. But I mean, I like.
We get 7 what?
7
where they go
memory dives.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
With Harry and Dumbledore about he who should not be named, or Voldemort, depending on what side of the wizarding world you're on. But they were so interesting because it goes back and it gives so much new nuance to why he is who he is, where his name came from and his mom and all. Some of them don't need to be in there. Like the whole story about his mom was a little much, but it also is kind of interesting that like it really shows a difference and a similarity to Harry and Voldemort too, and it's like really crazy.
You did it where you watched the movie and then you read the book and watched the movie again. Is that right, Noah?
I did.
I did too. I found that really interesting because I watched the movie, a couple weeks ago, and I was, especially the first 2/3, I really was engaged the whole time and felt really drawn into the story. And then of course you're reading the book and it starts filling in so much more. But then when I watched it again just a couple days ago, I was kind of bored, and it felt very thin and stuff. And that's the consequence of watching the movie right after you read the book. You're just not going to go for it. So I was pleasantly surprised how much more I enjoyed it, having not seen it or read it for 16 years.
I agree with you 100%. And I did that on the recommendation of a really close friend of mine. Oh, that was you. I agree. Cause like I said, when I went and sat down and watched this before starting the book, I was so much engaged in the first part of it. To me, I was almost like, how have I slept on this movie for so long? The first half, for sure. I was like, God, this is so good, and I have to say, I am a very big supporter of the Harry and Ginny love. That.
Oh, really?
I from day one, I like that first part of the book and the first part of the movie when she first sees him and he kind of sees her. There's something in the looks of those 2 kids, and I was like, those 2 are for to get that. Yeah,
let's talk about how do you cast kids when they're that age, knowing that in 5 years they have to develop some sort of chemistry. Because if you look at these characters, if you look like at Rupert, Grint and Emma Watson, it's trying to develop a chemistry between them when it's not really as easy to see from usually when you cast a movie, when chemistry is involved, you want to have them together. You want to make sure they have chemistry that can shine on the screen. I don't think they have the sort of cinematic chemistry that resonates. In the book, of course, you come up with your own things in your head. You know the characters but so you've got to give them a little bit of a pass on that. They can't necessarily plan.
Here's how I see it. I know what you're talking about, and I think you're right. So Emma Watson as Hermione and Rupert Grint as Ron. You're right. They don't have that in the movie. There's not that natural.
And I'm
magic.
I'm not saying that.
But
relationships in real life are built on. But
here's what I love about it is I think they actually nail what the relationship is, because Ron still doesn't know what the hell. Ron is still the typical boy that he's like, I like her, but I can't just pull her hair to show her I like her. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He still doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and she kind of friend zoned him. But she doesn't know how to get out of the friend zone. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
they're
dealing with that. And I think they did a great job with it.
But they grew up like brothers and sisters.
Right. Well, then that's why
that's the
I think
other
they're
hard
in, yeah, they're in that weird, and that's the same with Harry and Ginny. Like, I don't know about you guys, and
I think Ginny's a little different. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, so I don't know about you guys, but I had some best friends. Well, I had a best friend growing up who had an older sister at this point that I was infatuated with. But it was one of those things is like, you know, he was my best friend and he was her sister. So I was like, I could never really, you know, go after her kind of thing. So I get where Harry's coming from that. But then again, you know, talking to him later, years later, he's like, nah, dude, I would have loved that. And it's kind of this interesting, you know, thing where it's like, you know, what lines do you cross? So I love, and we get all that in the book. We don't get it in the movie as much. And for those that have only watched the movies, I'm talking to you, Bo, and any of the listeners that's
well, I'm getting there.
It's kind of hard. This is one of those things. It's like where you get a movie with notes, and you know, when you watch it after you've read the book, or watch it then read the book then watch it again, you've got all this extra information. You're like, oh, I see what they're doing here, and I get kind of some of this, and then like, oh, they fucked that one up. So, but I do like that we're finally getting to those points, and I just.
Ginny in the book is a lot different than Ginny in the movie. I think they played Ginny for the actress who portrayed Ginny and the chemistry that we had between her and Harry in the movie. I thought it worked much better the way they played it in the movie. I think it would have been a little tougher if they played it.
She has more of a presence in the book than they do in the movies, but most of the other characters do have more of a presence in the books than they do in the movies.
Yeah, well, she's more of a kind of a. Everyone knows her. Everyone's wants to be her friend. A lot of people want to date her. She's
a badass.
Yeah. Whereas in the movie, I think it's not quite portrayed quite as much that way. It's she doesn't.
They tried to a bit when she and Harry are
in the last movie.
Practice.
Yeah.
No, in this one, where Harry's like, "All right, everyone, settle down," and she's like, "Shut it."
Yeah, I like that.
And it was like, because and then you're like, "That's right, she had 6 brothers or whatever." So
the scene in the room of requirement in the movie where she ends up kissing him with his eyes closed. That's not in the book at all. That's something that was just created for the movie. I thought that worked really well in the movie. Maybe Noah, you don't think so, but I liked it. I thought it fit more with the characters that we had grown up with in the movies.
I agree. I did like it. I kind of wish there was more of it. When you look back, if you've read the books and you get the movies and you're consider yourself almost a hardcore Potterhead in the way, like you're like, God, I want more. It's almost like, God, could we follow Neville for a while? Let's get a year from Ginny's perspective. What's happening with her OWLs? Let's get all, there's all this other stuff going. I mean, we get another character in this that kind of jumps up to the front, who's been here from day one, right? She's in the same year as him, is Lavender Brown.
Yeah.
Right. She's been in this, but all of a sudden we're like, what? Like now she's going to show up? And I mean, even though they have had an actress playing there, there's some controversy there if you talk to certain people, but because so in the first 2 movies, I think, or second and third, they have a character named Lavender Brown played by a black actress. Okay, never in the books do they describe Lavender Brown's appearance at all. Nothing. So it was just they had background characters that they gave names to. Then we get to this book where all of a sudden she has a very active part, and they put I think she started in the last movie. I think she's part of the DA. And then in this, and she becomes a big part, and they have a different actress, and the people are like, oh, they're whitewashing. And I'm like, no, you just threw a name on a character that was standing in the background and decided to say, oh, you thought that might have been Lavender Brown. They've never described her in the book, so it was interesting
Did they name the character in the movies? Did they like?
Yeah, in the credits.
Does it say Lavender Brown is played by so and so?
Yes,
I can.
Two different actresses. So it's not even the same actress. Both happen to be black. Never had a line. Just happened to be in scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, and Half-Blood Prince probably hadn't come out at the time they made those first movies.
And if you go back into the books all the way through, never once a description other than you can kind of get one kind of small, you can read into it. Harry thought he saw Hermione running on the Quidditch field towards Ron. He thought it was Hermione. Turned out it was Lavender Brown. So you could say, oh, well, maybe she looks similar to Hermione.
I wonder if I mean, I guess they could have cast a black if they couldn't get the other person back, or if that didn't work with the character. If they cast a black person just to try to keep their racial profile the same, considering they had already kind of committed to that. I mean, there's kind of sense to that, but I don't know.
I mean, I can see why they would have cast a black actress, because otherwise.
Because the name Brown.
No, just because otherwise all the kids in it are pretty white.
Well, okay, so this was also supposed to have been done in the 80s, where someone went back through and said if you go look at London or England, the percentage of black people is less than 7% or something like that. So 1 out of 10 would be black, and so I think they did a pretty good number. Now you also look at the author. Literally every time there was a character who was black, you got Shacklebolt, you have I'm trying to think of there's Dean Thomas, like very specifically describes them as being black.
But she also described the Weasley twins as short and fat, and they didn't cast a short and fat Weasley twins. Well, no, I'm serious. It's like I think there's a lot of people are pissed off that they've cast a black Snape in the new HBO series, and it's like, fuck, what? I mean, skin color versus height and obesity. What?
Well, because the Snape thing, I agree with people in a way, because he's described as very pale.
He is described as pale, but I'm telling you, the twins were described as short and fat. So why is there outrage when it comes to skin color and not outrage when it comes?
Here's what I'm saying.
Because it does not matter. If it mattered, I get it. But let me finish my thought though.
All right. So the thing is, it's like, these are kids' movies. Mm-hmm. And I've said this before. Like, Claire for a while, she knows every single Asian actor in the MCU.
I get it.
She knows people who show up on the screen and have one line. She knows their character names. She knows who they're supposed to be from the comics. She is just hyper-focused. And I could see lots of little black girls all over the world who are huge Harry Potter fans seeing that and saying, oh my gosh, Lavender Brown looks like me. Until she has to kiss Harry, and then, nope, not doing that. I mean, that's what it could seem like, It's like...
I get that, and that's what
it's okay. It's okay for there to be black students at Hogwarts until they start dating white kids, and then that's not cool.
Dean Thomas was just dating Ginny. Well, and Dean Thomas was specifically stated in the first book as being black.
Did they show him kissing them?
I know it's mentioned in the book. I don't know if it's ever mentioned or shown in the movie.
Well, Noah, do you share the outrage about the twins?
I don't believe it.
About the casting of the twins being tall and lanky rather than short and fat?
No, I don't. But
I'm asking Noah. I'm asking Noah because he's the one that's that's kind of leaning. Into the fact that they cast a black Snape. I'm saying if they cast.
So I'm also going off of the fact that, like, okay, you have 8 movies, books that everybody, like, you have a character that is very much beloved and of look, right? I understand what you're trying to say, and you're completely going against it. I think they're making a mistake by doing that. I don't have a problem with casting black actors in a different role that is like...
Okay, but explain the difference between height and obesity and skin color.
So I was saying that very distinctly every time there was a black character, she very much described it specifically. Where this is where I'm saying the whole Lavender Brown.
Specific. I'm just saying they specifically described the twins as short and fat.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that ever being
I'm
said.
reminding you.
Right. I'm
arguing with myself because I understand what you're coming from, that there's this kind of this visceral response like, oh my gosh, this is supposed to be a pale character and they've cast a black person. How dare they? It's like, but wait a second. Why does it matter if we're not going to have the same sort of visceral reaction to the fact that they task someone that's a different size and shape that's equally described? It's like, if it's pertinent to the role, I get it. But if it's not pertinent to the role, and why are you saying it's pertinent to the role? What skin color they are? Because it's described.
I didn't say that.
But I know. I'm sorry. I'm getting heightened in my.
I brought up the fact that people did have an issue with this one with Lavender Brown, and I was like saying, well, okay, first off, the character was never really a named character. I mean, so they threw a name on a lot of people in the first couple movies. She didn't have a role until this one, and then they kind of went off the description in the books a little bit. There's not any hardcore descriptions, other also than the fact that they're in the written book, and in this they say when her and Ron, I think it's Harry says that he couldn't tell where one of them started and the other one ended. So if there were different colors, that would be a huge, easy thing to tell. Just saying, not even hardcore facts, but I was just saying that people did have an issue with it. I wasn't like, oh my God, why'd you do that? Or one way or the other. I didn't, because we didn't know from the earlier movies, other than if you went and read the cast list, right, you wouldn't know.
Sorry, I walked away. I had to go make my cocktail. My second cocktail.
What I'm telling you.
I'm sorry. Who are we talking about? I don't
remember. We started with Lavender Brown, who was previously cast with a black actress in 1 and 2. But then when they resurrected the role in this movie, it was a white actress. You know,
which one was Lavender Brown?
The one that was falling for Ron. That was like obsessed with.
Oh,
Ron.
gotcha. Yeah.
And I was.
I'm just getting up to speed. I don't really have
I
dog
was
in this fight right now.
I was trying to make a point that the Weasley twins were cast as tall and lanky, whereas in the book they're described as short and fat, and there's also kind of this outrage with how they've cast Snape as a black actor in the new Max.
Ron was also supposed to be tall and thin in the book.
Well, right.
Too, so
there's differences.
Harry was supposed to have green eyes.
So
how deep do you want to go into it?
And J.K. Rowling's a racist. I
don't think it. I think the outrage is misplaced. If there's going to be outrage across the board, I get it. If there's going to be a specific reason that you need to lean into why these characters are a certain way, sure. But if there's not, then it's just
the thing.
outrage.
I don't think you can get too hung up on the physical descriptions of the characters. You'd have to cast the best person for the role.
Okay.
However, if you have multiple movies in a series or a TV series or something, and you cast an actor who looks a certain way, and then you recast them, especially when you cast a character who was black, is now white, and I mean, maybe not everyone reads the credits, but I'm telling you, little kids who are not white are always looking for the little kids that look like them.
I understand. I understand the representation part of it.
And the thing is, and it's like, so, if you wanted to have Lavender Brown be white, she should have been white all along. But if she wasn't,
you also have this different directors, different runners. There was never a description.
And
it was also a character in the background that they put a name on it without ever having a line. So was it really an actress? That wasn't really a character. Could have been Miss.
But the thing is, it seems like that they recast as a white actress. Not because they couldn't find a single black actress in all of England who could have carried off the role.
Okay.
But because she was going to be kissing a white kid.
Okay, well let's look at the other side of that. What happens when you have a set character, and this is going to be an animated character that has been done for years and years and years and years and years, and then a new movie comes out and then now it's a black character. And this was a white character. So I'm talking about April O'Neil in the Teenage Ninja Turtles. So now can white people go up in arms about that?
It's a reboot. It's a reboot. It's a reboot. And
it's still the same character, though.
No, but it's the same way.
Okay,
I think
so
it's
are you telling me? So should all of the Fantastic Four people from the 4 different Fantastic Four movies we've had in our lifetime be looking exactly the same? No, they're reboots. It's very different.
It's like, are we going to cast a white actor as Nick Fury because he's white and he was white in the comics originally? Or are you going to cast Samuel L. Jackson because the man is amazing and is the best person to play the role? And
well, it's very interesting if and I'm not throwing this at you guys, but if someone white gets recast as black, it's okay. People have no problem with it. But if someone if it goes the other way, all of a sudden it's whitewashing and all of a sudden everybody's up in arms. You can't have it one way or the other.
To use
it's either going to be okay both sides or not okay on both sides.
That's not true.
To use your Ninja Turtles.
I disagree with that.
To use your Ninja Turtles analogy, if the ethnicity of April O'Neil had changed between the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Secret of the Ooze, I would have said, people would have been like, wait, this is supposed to be April now? But if 20 years goes by and it's an animated version and she's not even a reporter anymore, she's a student, I don't think that's as big a deal. It's a reboot, it's a reimagining, it's, you can do that. The Broadway show of Harry Potter that they had running for a while, Hermione was played by a black actress. And apparently she was so good that J.K. Rowling is like, I imagine Hermione is black now. Which is
so real quick. So go back to answer Noah's other question,
which seems a little horrifying. But
to go back to answer Noah's other question, quite frankly, I don't care either way what color the actor or actress is. I can't think of I am actually more intrigued when they try and do something where they'll put everybody. It's I grew up white, obviously. My whole world, or most of my whole world growing up was white. I mean, most of the people I hung out with were white. I did have, I had black friends. We had a pretty large black and non-white population in the town we grew up in. But I'm always intrigued when they do something like put a white actor for a typical black role, like Jesus. Like Jesus was definitely black, and he's always portrayed as white. And I just really have a problem with that. Because if you look at where Jesus came from an area where everybody from that area of the world is black. Yet he's always portrayed as white. So I'm always intrigued by that. Sorry, that was a little tongue in cheek there. But
he was definitely Middle Eastern. He wasn't like the
he wasn't pearly white like you see in all the pictures. But I guess back to what I was saying. I'm always intrigued when they change it up. When they change it up like that. Like I would love to see, I think what I would really like to see, and I think would be an interesting twist on the role change kind of a thing, meaning that putting somebody else in a different role is a Freaky Friday type thing where it's like a stepfather, right? It's a stepfather, stepmother. Like you have Eddie Murphy's the stepdad to some white girl, right? And then they get switched, and then the white girl has to live like Eddie Murphy and vice versa.
I remember in film school, I had an instructor that was this is 30 years ago. So he was saying, what do you guys think about casting, diverse people to play roles that, that wouldn't really necessarily make sense in a family, like a father who's, one race, a mother who's another race, and then a child who is their biological child that is neither, a third race, where it really doesn't make sense. And I, at the time, was like, what? No, that's not okay because it doesn't make sense and stuff. But then later it's just kind of like, well, this is this is theater. What am I talking about? This is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I mean,
you know, we
there's
get, yeah.
Anyway, but
there was a production of Oklahoma that ran on Broadway a couple of years ago. It might still be running for all I know. And they did what they call colorblind casting. So some of the actors were white.
You muted yourself, Dina.
somehow,
Yep, there you go.
I don't know how I.
You're back. Nope, now you're muted.
weird. When she's done, I have something I want to go way back to the beginning of the movie on. But when she's unmuted,
Okay.
she figures it out. Oh, you're back. Okay. I
I'm back.
have something I want to talk about. We're done with this thread.
Okay, so there was a production on Broadway of Oklahoma that was colorblind casting, and you had, like you said, like it wasn't even like step parents. It was like they just, one of the,
Right. Yeah.
one of the father of the one girl, the girl was white. Her father was played by a black actor. One of the characters was in a wheelchair. I mean, she was actually in a wheelchair. She was a disabled actress. And I remember reading a lot of stories in the paper about it, and they were just like, this is so amazing. This is so avant-garde. This is such a step forward. And I'm thinking, the very first show I did, I was in middle school. It was 1980. And it was Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And the two boyfriends were black. The two girls were white. We had completely colorblind casting because we had to go with who tried
It was
out.
available. Yeah.
Who was available. And the two best singers is one of them has gone on to be a professional singer, and the other one was
Lionel Richie.
His,
Just kidding.
I mean his uncle was what was his name? His uncle was a Broadway actor. So the two of them were insanely talented, but there were no black actresses who tried out who could have matched them. So we had to go with colorblind casting. And when Sharon, our sister, was in high school, it was the same thing. They did anything goes, and some of the cast was black, and some was white, and some was Hispanic, and some was Asian, and it didn't matter because that's what they had. And you can do that in theater. And you can do it in movies, depending on the production. And, I mean, although there is sometimes a very good reason why a character should be white or black, if you're, like they're doing a remake of American Psycho, and the actor they have playing the main guy is
Wait, they're remaking American Psycho? Why are they remaking American Psycho?
I don't
Like
know.
it was fine, but it wasn't like remake worthy. Jesus.
They're remaking everything. Anyway, the
It was
actor
based on a
is,
book. Maybe they found some new reading of it. A new reading.
Maybe.
Anyway,
a different perspective.
the actor playing Patrick Bateman is Indian, and people are like,
Is
This
Patrick
makes
Bateman a star? I don't remember enough
the
about
main guy. The main guy.
Christian Bale is the one who.
Christian
Christian
Bale's
Bale
character.
character.
Yeah.
And it's like, and people are like, this makes absolutely no sense because this movie is about, white male chauvinism and American exception. I mean, it's a parody of like this guy, and he's a psycho.
Yeah.
And but
So
it doesn't make sense. But in most other contexts, I don't think it should make a difference. But all that being said,
Well,
I think when you
what about
have
Jack
a
Reacher?
continuous,
They cast Tom Cruise as Jack Reacher, and it's like there's some outrage, man. The guy's like 5'1".
Well, and there was people speaking out about it. It's like, come on.
Very well warranted. That's something where the character is defined one way and it is built into what they are about. And if skin color is built into what they're about, okay. Or like what you're saying, the skin color of Patrick.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
This character in American Psycho is built into what that character is about. Yeah, maybe it makes sense.
I mean, it's there's a story, probably apocryphal, that when they talked about making the movie about Harriet Tubman, and they were discussing who they wanted to play, and they're like, well, could we have Anne Hathaway play her? And it's like, no, she's black.
So you can't have her.
Like,
yeah, and
they're like, well, how many people know that about her? It was so long ago, and it's like
everybody.
Wasn't it James Earl Jones? They were asking him about, what do you think about casting a white person to play a role? And he's like, I don't mind it but I'm gonna play Nixon in this movie, and he kind of poked fun at kind of the alternative. And it's like,
well, if you look at the movies that are coming out today, it's very much they're having a lot of black people play very historically white people or not.
And
so there's memes that are coming out but
they're also coming out with some bad movies.
Right,
too.
but I'm just saying it's always that way, and you can't have an opinion or a bad opinion about it. So I mean, there's memes now that you got people I can't remember who was playing like Martin Luther King is played by Johnny Depp or something, just great actors, and they're just putting them in these black roles, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, you have the Queen of England being played by a black woman, or a Viking, king being played by a black guy. There's there's plenty of them out there. So
who played the Queen of England?
Oh, it's shit. It was, I don't know offhand. Granted, part of these are coming from memes, so I don't know the full gist of it, but it is an actual movie that came out, and it was, it was a black woman playing. But I brought that up because of the fact that they changed it for a character that never had a line, that could have just been a background character that they put a name on. And I understand what you brought up, Nina, with your daughter and looking for representation. I totally understand that. And I'm just, it was one of those ones that's like, if you would have changed Hermione halfway through it, I would have been like, whoa, what the fuck? But you were changing a background character that never had a line, that never really said anything other than you put a name to someone who was standing in the back of filming.
I understand that, but like I said, I can't believe that there was no black actress in all of England.
But that's the thing is she wasn't described as a black actress or a black character.
No, but what I'm saying is
there was no.
I don't even know. Nina, can I say this? And I appreciate your point from before, and I appreciate your point about there's people of color, children of color that look for somebody, or look for that person or whatever. But I'm going to tell you what, I don't even know who the hell you're talking about. Like, flat out, I don't even know who you're referring to. So the fact that they had a black person, hold on, can I finish?
All right.
The fact that they had a black person in some of the earlier movies, and now she's not black, I didn't know. Like, I don't
know. But Nina's point isn't that she's not talking about you noticing. She's talking about people noticing that are very enamored by people that are the same skin color as them. And then suddenly to see that character elevated in a movie and they cast a white person, it does make it there. It's worth noting. I mean, I didn't read the books. Was the person described as black in the book?
No.
He didn't describe much at all.
Nope.
The only real description you get, there's two times where you might get a description of her skin color or looks, is one time Harry thinks that he sees Hermione running onto the Quidditch field towards Ron, and it turns out to be her, Lavender Brown. And the other time is when he describes Ron and her kissing, where you can't tell where one starts and one stops.
Oh. Yeah.
So that really, if you take that and you go, okay, she probably has very similar color skin tone as Hermione and Ron. It just goes that. And in the first movies where they threw a name on her, she had no line. She's a character standing in the background. There's other characters that didn't get a fucking name. And if you and I'm not, I know what you're saying. You're going on. Oh, people know this. You go back and look at those characters. One of them never acted again. That was the only thing they were ever in. So does that really matter?
Noah, do you think it would you have been bothered if they cast a black actress to play the role in this movie?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, then they probably should have. I mean, just to kind of stick with their that was the train that they started with.
Maybe they put the best actress in the character. Maybe that she was the best one to try out for it. Right? Isn't that the argument for the other way?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I do not believe
How can you not believe it? Why can't you believe it? You can't believe that the actress they cast was the best actress for the role that tried to get the role. You can't believe that?
I can't believe that in all of England.
I'm not asking that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying in all of England. I'm saying of everybody that tried out for the role. They can't go to all of England to fill the role. They pick people, all the actors and actresses in England. Not everyone in England. They're acting, all the actors and actresses in England. How do you know that the actress that they picked wasn't the best actress for the role? Do you know that?
Have you guys seen?
Do you know that? Can you just please answer that? Do you know that the actress they picked, either in the first two movies or in this movie, that it wasn't the best actress for the role? Well, yeah, but Nina's saying quantifiably that it's not the best actress because they should have cast somebody that was black.
She said
that's what Nina's saying.
She said she doesn't believe it.
She doesn't believe it. So she's saying it's impossible that they could have cast some.
No,
if she doesn't believe it, it's impossible. Then it's impossible.
Let me explain. That's not how they cast movies. They don't say, let's take a look at every child that shows up. Let's have an open casting call and look at every child that shows up. And if it's only white kids that show up, I guess we only cast white kids. Movies, especially at this level, they go to talent agents and they say, we need a girl, 17 years old, African-American, can credibly pull
not
off
even necessarily African American,
or okay, you're right, black, British, African British, or whatever.
Well,
why did they have to, there was no description of a race or color in this.
What I'm saying is, look, I'm not arguing that they should have had a black actress just for the sake of having a black actress. I'm saying they've established the character is black. And the optics of it looks to me as though they are changing her to a white character because of the racism.
Let me ask you this. No, let me ask you this.
Because of the kiss?
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What character can you tell me the scenes that she was in the previous movies?
No, I'm not.
Well, that's what I mean.
I'm saying here's the thing. Claire has a friend who's black and is a huge Harry Potter head, huge, has read all the books 16 times.
Okay.
I'll bet she could have told you every scene that she was in. I'll bet she has an opinion about the actress that they recast her as.
We should have her on next week.
Maybe.
Just kidding.
I get what you're saying on that, but I'll
bet her feelings are hurt, at least. And it's like, because
does that mean every white person out there can be mad at the new series because of Snape then?
No.
And we all why not? You just said we have a legitimate reason to be upset because of the color of his skin. If she has a right to be upset because they recast someone, then we all have a right to be upset that they're
recasting everybody.
But he's been described as white multiple times.
You want my opinion? You want my opinion? I don't think they should. If it depends how many other black actors are in there, because if he's the only black actor who's in the movie, and he is described, and he is loathsome and a villain for most of it.
So that's
not great either.
So then, can Dean Thomas be recast as a white character?
I don't think he should be.
He's the black kid that's in the room with Harry, who's been from get-go. He's even described as being a black character. He's one of Harry's actual friends, and they describe him several times.
He could be cast by a white person.
Here's the thing.
But then all the black kids will be up in arms.
Here's the thing. If they had cast him in the first movie as a white kid, because there were no black children in all of England who could play Dean Thomas.
Yeah, right.
And then recast and then recast him.
Well, no,
as
no,
a
I'm-
black.
I'm
as
saying in the
Undertaker?
reboot. In the reboot, can they put D. Thomas as a white kid?
Maybe, sure, maybe.
But don't you
Well,
think the
no,
black
it's
kids
either
would be-
yes or no.
But
If
wouldn't the
they
black
can be
kids be
black,
up?
Yes.
But
yes
wouldn't
or
the black
no?
kids be
Yes.
upset then?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
he could be.
But
He
the
could
black kids would be upset.
Hermione could be.
But
Harry
but the,
could be.
Not if
so
they're,
so wouldn't
not
but
if they're
Nina,
casting.
Nina,
If they're not casting, I mean, if they're casting a black Snape and they cast a white Dean Thomas, there's
You think that? Oh, you think they will? Hell no.
But they've described Nina just or Noah just said, and I don't know if this is true. Noah just said that the friend was described as a black kid.
Yes.
So if you've read the books and you're a black child, much like just like my niece's friend who's
Yep.
black, who was probably upset or probably sad that when they watched this movie, it was a white actress,
no.
not a black. Hold it. Can I just finish? Not
You're
a black
saying
actress.
It wrong. You're saying it wrong. Go ahead.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
No, I'm
he's
not. What I'm
She's
saying
not
is,
talking about the book. She's talking about the movie. It was cast black in the first two movies.
I'm talking about the same scenario where somebody has an expectation that they're going to be portrayed in a certain way. The expectation, if you've read the book and have not seen the movie, expectation, seen the book, not seen the movie.
So why don't
You've
they
read
cast
the
the
book.
twins as fat and short? Why do they cast them as tall and lanky?
They might. They might.
That's what
I
they
mean,
did with
it's-
these and the twins in this. I mean, why are we
I
talking
don't know.
just about skin color? Why is that the only thing we care about when there's all
Because
these
that-
other descriptive things? You know,
Well,
that's
that's
the
true.
only thing we're going to be outraged at because it's a color.
Look.
I'm not
getting-
I'm not outraged about any of it, quite frankly. I'm just trying to I'm not outraged at all. What I'm trying to do is understand the difference between what Nina's describing in that there was an actress that was black in the first two movies, and her daughter's friend, my niece's friend, was probably upset, as Nina said, when she saw that the actress in this movie was white. Yet, would she be as upset if she had read the books and one of the actors or actresses was described as black in the book and they cast a white actor or actress in that role?
I think if they cast all white people,
No. I'm saying in the
Right, but
role
they
where there
didn't.
was a
No, I know.
No, I'm saying, but it's we're talking about a lot of hypotheticals here. Like, what if they did this? What if they did that? My what if in this is, what if the actor or actress or the character in the book was described as black? Which I'm going to go with no on this because I haven't read the book yet. They've described as black
Sure. Yep.
in the book.
Yep.
Yet when the movie comes out, the actor or actress that's portraying that character is white. How are they going to feel about it then? They're going to be just as upset, correct?
Here's the thing.
No, I'm asking. Not here's the thing. It's a
Maybe.
simple question.
So I want to say that I think
Maybe,
there's,
I don't know.
if you cast Snape as black and Dean Thomas as white, then I don't think there's room for being upset. That just means they're making casting choices and it's not about skin color. If
Okay.
everything is all white, yeah, then it's going to be kind of like, wait a second, this is a little
Here's the
bit.
thing.
Whoa.
This is what I'm saying, though.
There's percentages, right?
Uh-huh.
So if that means if you, this is supposed to be in the 80s, 90s in London, right?
96, I think it was.
So if you do a percentage of and kind of what they've done, there's black actors in there. They're not the main characters, but they're still black actors. That doesn't mean that it's all white. And there are named characters. There's actually two major characters that get named and used a lot. And Dean Thomas is one of them, who's a roommate of Harry. He's in his same year. He's brought up several times. And Lee Jordan, who happens to be the best friend of the twins. So they are described as black. And they have lines, and they have in the movies and in the books, they have very distinct things that they say. Lavender Brown was not mentioned basically until the later movie, other than hanging around with Parvati Patel, who they showed as an Indian actress in the movies. And they had very little lines. So they do a pretty decent job. So I brought it up because people had an issue because two unknown named actresses got their name thrown onto because they were in backgrounds as Lavender Brown. No one asked it was like, oh, is that really Lavender? No lines. So literally probably shouldn't even got a name. It should have just been Gryffindor student. right? Just like they have Slytherin student, and there's plenty of kids that don't even get names in there as even students. And then later on, when it's a bigger character, it's white, and people had an issue. That's what I was bringing up.
But I think Nina brings up a reason why it is fair to consider it as an issue. And I think that's what she's saying. It's fair to consider it. You're saying there is no issue, and she's saying, well, this is where there could be an issue, and so it's worth part of the conversation. Needs to be a part of the conversation, and maybe it was.
In the context of all of film history, I mean, we have to look at all of that. There are a lot of characters that are, as they say, whitewashed.
There's also a lot of characters recently that have been blackwashed.
I'm not talking recently.
Well, no, we got to talk recent because
let me get there, okay?
Okay.
Let me get there. And the problem is, it's like they sometimes would change characters, gender or not genders, ethnicities or races, so that they could avoid there being like interracial dating or interracial marriage. And, you know, it's tricky. And it's just, and like I said, it's, if you were casting a movie and you needed a male lead, and Idris Elba and Tom Cruise both had an equal chance of playing the lead, if they both walked into the auditions or whatever,
Yeah.
and the casting directors were like, I don't know, they're both really good, then you would have a point. But it's
how
not
much
like that.
influence does Scientology have on that particular film? I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No,
They were just
But
two names I grabbed out of it.
I know.
No, but that makes a point that I get. You make a point that everybody's like, it should be the best actor, but it also got to look at what the story's telling, where it's coming from, where it's representing, and that's what I'm bringing up. That
and chemistry too, when you're dealing with.
What I'm saying is, there's a lot. I mean, the Harry Potter series, the actress who played Cho Chang, when she was
she's Scottish with Asian descent. Yes.
Yeah, but when she showed up in the movies, the actress got death threats because no way would a good white British boy date a Chinese.
There's fucking idiots out there. What are you going to do?
That's like, people are like, her name is Cho Chang. And they're like, well, that doesn't mean anything. It says she has freckles. Asian people don't have freckles, which I can tell you, yes, they do. But, you know.
Anybody can get freckles.
Or in.
Black people have freckles. You just don't see them as much.
Yeah, exactly. Or in the Hunger Games. Have you guys seen those movies?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know the little girl Rue?
Yeah.
In the first movie? She is actually described in the book as black. I mean, they describe her skin tone as being brown. And
they cast her that way.
And she was wonderful. She was a delightful child. And people flipped out. They're like, this is ridiculous. Rue isn't black. She's not black. And there's people like, yeah, she's described as brown. Well, that's from Working in the Sun. You know, they just couldn't picture her.
Okay, I get that.
Because they wanted everyone in that movie to look like them. And all of that is to say, if they had cast a white actress from the beginning for Lavender Brown, I wouldn't be having this conversation.
They didn't cast a girl for Lavender Brown. They named a background actress. That's what I'm trying to say.
But what I'm saying
if you don't have a line, you really don't have a.
If this is something that the fans came up with, if they decided, oh, that must be Lavender Brown, I'd be right there with you. But the fact that they put it in the credits and say Lavender Brown is played by this actress, and you go to her IMDb page, and there she is, and you can see exactly.
Well, but it was also it wasn't even the same actress back to back, so it was basically extra actresses. It was background characters that they put named. They do that shit all the time. Don't just.
No, I agree.
Are you dismissing what Nina's saying? Because I think she's making a point. I think there's
okay,
conversation.
Then let me counter that. Let me counter that with then she was never described as black. So can people go back to the first ones and say that can't be Lavender Brown? She's not described that way.
I mean, probably people did, but
I'm sure.
sure.
Just like
But
all
are
the
they-
people that said,
Are
that
they
the
wrong?
Weasley
Are they
twins
wrong?
were tall, you know.
I mean, if they cast a white actress in the first movie and she had no lines,
She wasn't
and they
even in the
cast a
first
black-
movie. It was the second and third, and they were
okay,
different.
the second and third, whatever.
And they were named. They were background people named, and like
What
there's
I'm-
a lot
what
of
I'm
other
saying-
ones.
What I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
If the
but that-
actress in the second movie had been white and the actress in the third movie had been black, and when she shows up in this, she's white again, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. They couldn't find, they had trouble keeping an actress on staff and they just wanted to have the same person. But the fact that they cast 2 black actresses in a row, that
Different
suggests to
movies.
me-
And
So,
there was
that's-
also a movie between where it wasn't one of them.
It suggests to me that it was a deliberate choice because
But we don't know.
it suggests to me because
But we don't know.
we don't
Just like
know
Steve
for
said, we don't know.
And you've got different directors, different casting agents. You got different, it ran through how many different people until we got to like the last 4 where it was kind of the same person throughout.
I guess, but I don't know. I just
Like, I mean, I
Racism-
understand your theory, and there's probably a
racism's
lot
a
of
thing.
there's a lot of legs to it, but nobody knows. We're just this
nobody
is how we
knows for
see
sure.
it.
But the optics are bad. Let me put it that way.
So then the optics are bad for casting a black Snape.
Maybe I don't know. Here's the
Well,
thing.
by that
I think-
evidence,
that
it is.
I'd have to.
No, it's
I'd
a
have to
different-
see the
you're-
context.
I don't.
I'd have to see the context. I'd have to see the context.
Why,
I'd have to see-
are we-
Context is-
why is it being equated as the same? I think Nita's bringing up a point that there was a black person that was cast named
But it's
in the
precedence.
credits.
It's precedence. It's precedence.
It's precedence. What? This is a whole
Because
recast. This is a whole new
Right, but they're
series.
pulling it. They're trying to be more specific to the books, and the books very distinctly describe him as a pale white man.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the rest of the movie?
No, of course we can.
I mean,
I have a question about the rest of the movie. If we can diverge,
Please.
I don't think we're ever going to wrap this up. I don't think we're ever going to get consensus.
I was going to say, I think
the people
this is
listening
one
to
of
the
those
show are
things-
like, move on already. So
Run along,
The,
Wormtail.
the internet's like that with all these people that are bringing up all this, crap
Yeah.
about,
Yeah,
about
I
the
agree.
casting.
This is
It's like,
prob-
move
this is-
on already. Come on, let's just see the
This
series.
is. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Save this tape, Steve. I'm giving it a better than even chance that the Hermione in the series is black.
that what?
Yeah.
The Hermione in the series is gonna be black.
And keep this too. That's gonna bomb that series because people are gonna bomb it because of that. And it has nothing to do with my personal take. I'm just saying the way that people are right now, if you go and change it that drastically from what has been there before, people are gonna fucking revolt.
I absolutely believe with Noah, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's just.
I'm not
the
saying I
way-
agree with it. I'm just
the
saying
way the
look at the
world is right
Romeo
now.
Juliet that they just did. where
Which
they
is
put
why
the-
I think the conversation we're having right now is valid. It's good to have.
It
and
is.
try to figure out
Oh, it's
how to
totally valid.
navigate
I
it without
I mean,
just.
if the only thing they change about Hermione is her skin tone, and it's like she's still, her parents are Muggles, they're dentists in London. She's still a smarty pants know-it-all. She's still.
I get what you're saying.
She's still brave and honest and true and all that stuff, except she's black. Then.
That would be great.
People flipping out can only be attributed to racism.
Well, okay, but that would be great if that was the case. But the problem is you have it on both sides where people flip out on either side. So you can't say it for one side and not the other, and that's not the case in this.
So let me ask you this.
And that's
Nina.
where the problem lies.
That's a great question. So you're saying how it's racism when white people flip out when they take a historically white role and cast it as a black person, but when people of color flip out when a historically role with people of color are cast by a white person, that's not racism.
All right, you want me to get into?
No, we don't want to get into that.
sociology
We
here?
don't want to
No,
get into it.
Sociology
We don't
theory
want to
here?
get into it, but the way you said it, it could be
What
the
I'm
other
saying-
way.
Look, white people, for better or for worse, I think for worse, get to make these decisions. The casting directors, the directors, the producers, the studio executives, for sure, are overwhelmingly white.
Sure.
And if there's a character, if there's an actor in any movie who is not white, I guarantee you they have a very good reason why they're not. Either they're trying to.
I don't know that I could say guarantee about
trying to
anything.
have-
Quite frankly, I can't say
Okay,
guarantee.
Okay, maybe not guarantee, but trust me, I have the feeling that if they cast, it's either because the actress is extremely talented and
I have a
And,
problem with that statement because The Rock has made a lot of movies and he is not white.
what I was
Nor
gonna say
talented.
is- what I was going to say is there's lots of black actors that are popular and they keep making movies like
Yeah.
Will Smith.
Eddie
also,
Murphy.
I'll give you one, Zendaya as
Right, she's
MJ
not
in
great.
Spider-Man.
She's horrible.
He's horrible, you think?
I thought she was horrible. I do not
See,
like her.
I thought she was great, and I think she's very beautiful, and also she's very popular.
Yeah.
I don't like Zendaya. I think she's overrated. I'm not saying she's bad. I think she's overrated. So I mean I understand what you're saying.
I agree to disagree there.
No,
But-
in the
but there's-
Spider-Man she's good, but in other stuff I thought she was horrible in Dune.
What else?
I
have you
thought she
seen
was
then?
so Euphoria.
Euphoria. Okay, I haven't seen that. I liked her in that tennis movie. I thought that was really good.
I haven't watched that. I'm just saying I think she's overhyped. But that beyond that, like
Okay.
The Rock.
The Rock, Eddie Murphy, Will Smith.
Zandaya's
Idris
in the
Elba.
Seth Rogen echelon of people for no, I think.
No, not nearly as bad. I agree with you. I think she did a pretty decent job as MJ, but I just don't think she was the MJ I know and love from the comics.
And it's a different type of acting between being in a Marvel movie and being in Dune and being
True.
in the tennis movie and then being in, like, I can't even name another movie she's been in, quite frankly. That's just me, because it's just, it's just me. And so,
Yeah, you don't know shit.
can I
Yeah,
can
let's
I,
get back.
can I diverge? I have a question about a main premise of this movie that I've been wanting to ask since 7:30.
Okay.
And I'd like to bring it up. So, and I missed something, or I wasn't paying attention at one of the last movies, or it's in the book more so than in the movie. But why is everything like so much like a ghost town?
So, okay, this is another part I had a big issue with this movie is in the very beginning, in the book, they talk about the minister of magic going to talk to the minister of Britain, the actual minister, and he's talking about how he who
Like the Prime Minister of
Prime
Britain,
Minister.
like
yeah,
Prime Minister.
yeah, the prime
actual-
minister, and then he's talking about how these Death
Like-
Eaters are out and all this. So they're trying to show that visually without telling the story, and so they have these, which I don't understand why they fly around with this black smoke behind them. Like, is that some kind of, like, do they not know how to operate? Like, wouldn't it just be easier to pop in, pop out?
It's for cinematic reasons. It's
yeah.
just to light up the screen a little bit
Oh,
more.
for sure.
But anyways,
Yeah.
they talk in. I guess the only place in the book is they mentioned the minister talks about the bridge, and there was some Muggle deaths, so they had to show them fucking up the bridge and doing all this stuff. And so it's kind of a visual way to show that the Death Eaters are out just causing chaos.
so even like when they're on a whatever alley, what's it called?
Diagonal Alley.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
they do
when
talk
they're
about him.
Diagon Alley, and
They
it's all like a
kidnap-
ghost town.
Well, they do go there and destroy Alavander's wand shop and kidnap him. That is actually in the book where they do talk
But
about
it wasn't
him.
in the movie. So this is like
It was. They pop in and they walk him out under a hood. I don't even know if it's the real actor, but you see the one guy. It's Fenris Greyback, who is
Gotcha.
he's the guy we find out in the books that created Lupin. He's the werewolf that created Lupin. He's
Gotcha.
one of Dumbledore's, or not Dumbledore's, Voldemort's big cronies, but he's walking him out in a hood, and you got a guy behind him with a whole stack of wands, which brought up an interesting thought.
So
in
was
my mind.
that in this movie or the last
Yes.
movie?
No, this is in this movie.
Okay, I don't remember.
That's
I didn't
why
remember seeing that because I remember
very,
it started,
very early. Very early.
Because the thing I do remember is it's very like you have the Weasley brothers, the twins, have like their shop that's like ragingly great and is going
just
gangbusters and all that kind of stuff. Yet all the other shops are closed.
I was just reading that, and they brought up why is Wizards Wizzly Wheeze is doing so well, and then it was like Fred and George just realized right now the world needs something to laugh at, and
Also,
so that's kind of a point of like they're trying to keep people's
spirits up.
Yeah.
They did mention when they first got to school that a couple of the kids were saying their parents didn't want to send them.
Right.
Oh,
Like Hermione said, "Oh, mom and dad didn't want me to come," and one of the other kids said, "My parents didn't want me to come either, but I told them I had to," or whatever. So I imagine there's quite a few, especially younger kids, where the parents are like, "You know what? We're gonna
hold you
homeschool."
back.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Voldemort is now.
How bad could it be? I mean, what did you learn last year? You know.
Well, the Ministry of Magic finally just said yes, that these guys were telling the truth the whole time, and so it's out, and so that's out there. So this is a I don't know where this question would even be. So in the very first movie, Harry goes to get his wand, and he gives him one wand, and it doesn't work right, and then he gives him another one, and shit goes fucking sideways, and he finally gets the right wand. Does that mean that every wand, if it's not the right wand for you, is not going to work? Because in the later movies and in this one where they just grab a stack of wands, like, is that just going to work for whoever grabs it? Or if you end up, and we see this where they've picked up other people's wands and used them, that doesn't.
Well, it's probably like how a suit fits. If the suit doesn't fit, you can still wear it. It's just not going to. You're not going to.
Or maybe it's maybe it matters more for Harry or more for a new wand buyer because you're not experienced with a wand yet. Oh. But as you become more experienced with a wand,
I'll buy that one.
You become more experienced with a wand. You can use different wands because you know the different nuances to a particular wand.
So if you're just learning spells, you got to be super specific. But if you are more experienced,
you're Dumbledore or you're whoever, Snape or whatever, super experienced wizard, you have the ability to. Okay.
And plus, I don't think every wand is completely unique. They talked about like there seems to be just a few like the cores that they have. That if it's a what is it, a unicorn hair, a phoenix feather,
knockoffs from China, that coming in.
Yeah,
right.
Going off of my experience on the what's the Pottermore site, right, where you go on and you can get your class, your school, you can get sorted, you can get your Patronus, you can even get your wand. And there's three major components. One is the wood that it's made out of, and there was like 7 different types of wood. Okay. There is the core, which is, I think there was a bunch of different cores, and like Harry has a very specific one because it was given by a very powerful phoenix, right? So not only is it a phoenix, but it's a powerful phoenix. You got unicorn hairs, they got fucking fairy dung and all kind. I don't know if fairy dung is one of them, but there's a bunch of different
dragon something or other.
Yeah, dragon hamstring or something. I don't know. But then there's also the length apparently affects it. So you have all these different things that go in. So you could end up essentially whatever the potential number of 3, times 7 times 7 times, I don't know how many lengths. You could end up with a very variety of different wands and stuff like that. So,
and maybe too, it's like maybe you can since they are multi-component, maybe you can break them apart and take the components from the wand and use them for something else too.
Yeah,
and
that might be why they're taking him. Like,
could be.
This won't work for so and so because it has a unicorn.
Maybe only so many people.
This has fairy penis, and this one has unicorn hair, but this one has manicore toenail. So I mean,
that's what I want, a very long dark wood fairy penis wand. That's my goal.
Oh my god!
What's the core of yours?
Fairy penis.
Uh,
Hey, so another question, just to go back, and this this doesn't have to do with the movie we're watching, but it has to do with I'm listening to the second book.
yes.
In the second book, there's a whole it seems like at least 2 chapters, but maybe it's just one solid chapter. But anyway, where Harry, his bones are he turns limp because his bones. Did that happen in the movie and I just am forgetting it? And it was or did that not happen in the movie? Where he became his bones turned to rubber.
That was when he broke his arm playing Quidditch, and the Defense Against the Dark Art. What's his name? The
guy that was in the newspaper and stuff and wrote the books.
Lockhart. Lockhart was an idiot and didn't really know how to do spells, so he tried to repair it and basically disintegrated all his bones in his arm. And they did show that in the movie.
Okay,
and then he had
but in the book, he was in the hospital for a really long time.
He had to grow back his bones.
Gallagher.
Yeah.
And did that happen in the movie, or was it just quicker in the movie?
Okay, much quicker in the movie.
They sped it up, but he did at least spend overnight.
All right. It didn't. The context didn't click for me. That's all. So anyway, I will say this.
I don't even know if I want to bring this up. I'm looking at the IMDb trivia. Over 7,000 girls auditioned for the role of Lavender Brown. Read from the scenes with Madame Pomfrey, Hermione, and Ron. Ironically, Emma Watson recommended Jessie Cave, who is the actress who got the role, which she got even though she hadn't attended those auditions.
I thought she was great. Conversation aside, I really enjoyed it.
I thought I saw the 7,000 girls edition. And I was like, oh shit, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you brought up the fact that they send these out. And
even if only 10% were black, that's 700 girls to choose from.
Well, I mean, and you were saying that they sent these out to talent agencies. I think if I remember correctly, they opened the casting call they opened it up to anybody. It wasn't just through agencies. They said, come on down. We're casting Harry Potter. Show us what you got. And that's why they probably ended up with 7,000, because there's probably 5,000 of them that were just girls that wanted to be in Harry Potter movies.
Well, do you guys remember the Willy Wonka movie that Johnny Depp did?
Yes, it was horrible.
It was. But I had a friend who was a school teacher in London at the time they made that. And one of his students is one of the kids, one of the background actors. He's like, but the thing is, it was the scene that was supposed to take place in Japan. So they had a casting call. It's like, we want Asian girls to come and audition. We're going to cast, 30 of them to be in this movie. And he said she not only got in it, but she's like the very first girl that runs in. So he's like, every time he sees it, it's like, oh, there's Amanda or whatever. That's usually how it goes. Is there's usually a casting. They send it to agents. I'm sure it was very. I'm sure the open casting calls were good publicity for the movies, though, because like I said, the kids are nuts about it. And the idea is like, I could be in a Harry Potter movie. Probably they went bananas.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely did. And yeah, I think they did send out like they normally would, but I think they also did the other side of it where they're like, oh, let's just open this up to anybody who wants to come out and check things out.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've read casting notices. Andrew used to act in local movies. And I followed a couple of websites where they put the casting notices up, and it's funny because a lot of people, because you could make comments on them, and it's like there were so many like horror movies, and it's like, needed male 17 white, female 18 or can play 18 white, and it's like there would be 6 kids in the movie and they're all white, and somebody's like, it's like to play victims of the in this murder or in this horror movie, and somebody's like, oh, that's a lot of dead white kids, So, there is some people have that in their minds, when they
Yeah.
asked for casting.
Um,
And I mean, hopefully it's gotten better in the last 20 years, but I don't know.
yeah, who knows? Who knows? Another question about this movie.
This movie, you mean Half-Blood Prince?
Half-Blood Prince.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry. The thing that keeps coming up, and it plays, I don't know, I would say it plays a big role, plays an interesting role, is this luck potion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the way the luck potion plays into it, I don't know, I'm certainly not confused, but it's the thing that is perplexing to me about the luck potion is that seems to give more than luck. Like it gives like this like incredible confidence
You should.
to
Well,
whoever's drinking it or whoever's using it. And it's like, I could be the luckiest guy in the world. I don't know if that would change my level of confidence about a situation.
I disagree a little bit. So the confidence part, like we see, is a fake confidence that Ron got when he
Well, of
thought.
course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but when Harry gets it, and it's funny because this is actually one of my favorite scenes as far as like the acting goes. There's a part in this that just I love so much, but it's he almost acts a little drunk, and it's like he just gets an idea and acts on it. So it's not confidence; it's just going with that first thing, almost like he doesn't have anything a naysay in his head. It's not necessarily confidence. It's like, this is the right thing to do, so I'm going to do it. It's almost like there's
he sees the path. It's a path that has no logic to it. It's all based on this spell that kind of connects the dots. So he goes one direction when it makes no sense. What he's after is in the other direction. But nope, I got to go this way because for some reason this is where I'm heading. So I agree with Noah. I loved the way that was performed, and I liked the spark, the twinkle in his eye that whole time.
Yeah, he's got like this strong, and he's walking, and he just walks up and he sneaks up on the professor, and he's like snipping the little plants and trying to get his little black market thing going, and he's just like, "Oh, hey, I shouldn't have snuck up on you, my bad." And he's like, "I'm going down to Hagrid's." Well, you can't go outside at night. Well, I'm going, so you might want to
come with me if you want.
Yeah. And they walk past Hagrid where Aragon has died, and this is the one that gets me, and this is where Daniel. I don't know who told him to do this, but it just, I love it so much. And he's like, I don't know why people are so scared of Aragon, and he's like the pincers, and he does this little move with his hands by his mouth. Yeah. And just everything about him, like, that is so.
It's reminiscent of Holy
Grail
when
I didn't think of
the rabbit's teeth. It's got big teeth.
Yeah, it's the pincers, but just the way he does is like click, click, click.
Yeah, I agree.
I laughed so hard.
That scene's actually on the screen right now, where he's doing it with his.
Yeah, it was the pincers.
Yeah, and in the book, he actually knew that there was going to be a service, so it was in his mind. So maybe the potion kind of enlightens the pathways in his mind. It doesn't necessarily give him.
And I love how he used it earlier in the Quidditch setup of Ron, and
fake support. The fake pour is classic.
Oh, well, not only that, but he did it, and then they don't really talk. I mean, filming, they have to do the way they do. But in the book, they talk about how he waited for, and I think it's Hermione who actually says it instead of Luna, but he set her up to actually see him like he was pouring it in. Like he used her to bring, because he knew she was
movie.
In the book, it's Hermione. I think in the movie, it's actually Luna.
Yeah. I think it's better explained in the movie. You get a sense of it right away.
Oh no! Well, I think they did a pretty good job, because I thought they did, but it comes back.
That's
great.
What I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. It will come. I'm saying in the book, I think they added a little more detail to it.
Sure.
Because he knew that she had used the confundance charm to get Ron the spot as a keeper, right, against McLaggen, who. Right. So in the book has a bigger part too. He's even a bigger douche in the book. Hard to believe, but yeah, there's just, it's such a good way to do it. And it was so fun to see it. And, but yeah, in the way Ron is like, oh wait, You know, he doesn't outright say it, but he's like, "Oh, I should drink this, huh?" And goes out and you know, we get the Weasley is our king again. I almost did a drink from that, but I was like, oh, it's so much more in the book that.
Yeah, I don't think they do the Weasley is our king in the movie at all.
No,
They've barely mentioned in the book that it's sung again, not necessarily that it's a big part, but I for some reason I like just like the Weasley as our king.
Yeah,
and that's also what started off the Lavender Brown kissing him, and then we get the snogging and snogging and snogging all throughout the rest of the movie. The Quidditch is a bigger part in the movie where, again, Harry is not allowed to play in the last game because of I think he gets detention, and they end up winning and stuff like that again. So. Another movie where we lose the Quidditch finals, where Gryffindor again wins the Quidditch Cup.
I liked how in the movie when Ron got when he drank the potion or the mead that was poisoned, and he ends up in the hospital. In both the book and in the movie, he says Hermione. You know, when he's when he's in some sort of deep sleep or whatever. But in the book, Lavender Brown isn't there. And they don't play it out that way. In the movie, though, that's how they split up basically because of what she says. I liked how they played that out in the movie. They condensed it a lot because he had to go and actually break it off with her and a lot of other stuff, and it drug out a lot. And there was a lot of tension between those two throughout that, which, it's like, we all know, come on, just, which, I mean, it's funny because, I mean, I think throughout the movies and even throughout the books, everybody kind of knows, and especially if you're rereading or that those two hook up at the end, that it's kind of like, oh, I'm seeing all this, like, just, why do you guys fight it so hard? And so it kind of is nice to finally get to that point. And same to me for Harry and Ginny, which I hate the fact they don't do it in the movie, but in the book, he tells her that they can't be together because he has to go off and be the hero, which I hate. It just I that's one of the things I dislike. He's a little more cocky in the book.
Not even see, to me, I think he's a little bit more whiny and snivelly in the book compared to the movie. I think the movie makes him a little bit more. He's a lot more likable. Like in his whole Draco infatuation of following him around and him having to be the bad guy and everything in the book is so like, God, just, even his friends are like, dude, let it go. It's not as tight in the movie. It's not as you're like, you don't get his, you're like, dude, just let it go. We get it. Even though he ends up being right, which makes it even worse. But the way he goes about it is like,
What do you think about the room of requirement? I felt in this book, it felt a little abused. It didn't feel as, I loved how it was used.
Magical before. It was magical before.
In Order of the Phoenix, I thought it was great. It was like, it really represented. Here, it almost seemed like multiple people used it and it was the same place for hiding things, and it was almost built on too many coincidences or things. It didn't feel as like
they don't even give I know what you're talking about, and I think it's the book that really makes you feel that way because Harry has an interaction with the divination teacher Trelawney in there where she's just basically hiding her sherry bottles,
right?
And which she says she's been doing for years. So you're just, you're like, oh, so you're just a dump room. Right. Everyone's using the same room, which seemed to me contradictory to what it was. It's supposed to be something you need. It's not going to present the same room to everyone, but it seems like that's what it was doing. Well, actually, now that you say that, when you come back to it, like that actually might be the way that works, because when they used it in the Order of the Phoenix, they had a nice classroom size thing that had all the stuff they needed to practice charms and curses and stuff. But when you need to hide something, it's just a big dump room that everybody's been dumping in.
But the fact that it's the same room and multiple people are using it this year for a dump room, it seemed a little bit.
Well, but I mean, almost that to me, it kind of reminds me of a Dresden Files book that I read, where they end up going into a room that's controlled by Hades, and it's just he just dumps all his hordes of treasures in there, and it's kind of the same thing where it's like he has this one room where it's like, I don't know, I don't have a place on the wall for this, so basically what the room of requirement became is everybody's garage, right? You know, I don't have anywhere else to put this, so I'm just going to put this in here. So it just became the big garage, and yes, if you need somewhere to hide, it just goes back to that being that room, and it's the same room for everybody. I kind of like that in a way, but I understand it doesn't have the same magical feel that it did before in the previous movies, or movie, I should say.
I don't know. It didn't strike me as magical at all, quite frankly, as being from the movie perspective. I mean, I get that it had magical properties, but it wasn't like this like incredible magical space.
I agree with that too, because it's also like, why would it just like, I need this room so I can work on this cabinet, right? Why? How would Malfoy get the room to really respond to that? Like he didn't. I guess he really did need it. Otherwise, he was gonna die. So maybe that's all it is like you just got to believe enough that you need that room, or you're gonna die, and it shows up for you. So like if you have to piss so bad that it feels like you're gonna die, it'll show up as a loo for you, and you know. I think that isn't that how they describe it as. I think it's Ron describes it as that way. One point.
Oh, really? I didn't pick.
Yeah,
up.
I think it. When they were first talking about it, so he's like, if I need a bathroom and I really need it, that's what'll show up. Yeah. So,
interesting. I didn't pick up on that.
Well, that's what they needed. They needed a place to put all their shit. Hey, that's a bathroom for you, right?
So we haven't even touched on this yet. So this is the movie that really sets up the final, and I think this is why the end of the movie actually doesn't work as well as some of the others, is because it's more of a setup movie to finish off the seventh book and the two seventh movies with the Horcruxes. Was where we first kind of learn about him. You know, we get Slughorn and his little club, and Harry's mission to get the memory.
We knew about him before. Right? We did. This isn't the first we've heard of him, right?
No, this is the first you hear of Horcruxes. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
we've probably talked about it on the podcast, I think.
Maybe.
Or, I might have heard about it on other podcasts too, because they're like, sometimes I hear other podcasts about Harry Potter and they might mention the Horcrux.
We kind of knew about it because of the second movie, the book. There's this like, how did he drop his knowledge into that? How did he become part? So it's kind of been hinted.
This is the first time you hear the word, though. Horcrux. This is the first time.
Yeah. And this is the one where Dumbledore finally knows, like, okay, Harry, I'm gonna be straight with you. This is what we're doing, and we get that scene where they pop off to the cliff and have to do their little adventure inside, and the blood on the rock. Did they do that in the movie? There was the blood on the rocks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was fading at the end of the movie when I watched it. I was
that whole sequence when they get the jewel is almost verbatim from the book. The way they played that out, I was.
And it's very cinematic. I know the fire, man. That fire scene where he's under the water and the fire is above, and you see it. And then he comes up and you see Dumbledore with that just big tornado of fire. Like, oh, he's still a badass. It is. It's a rough scene. That part is, and then they zip back, and this is where they take a lot of stuff and kind of condense it into a small scene.
Yeah.
With Dumbledore's death. And this is the one I really want to talk about, because this is where, Draco, he comes out and unarms Dumbledore's wand with his I can't even think of the spell right off the top of my head, but it's the one they've been using from the get-go. Expelliarmus. Yeah, at the same time, Dumbledore kind of freezes Harry so he can't do anything, and then we get the speech from him and talking back, and then Snape shows up. This is, I'll give Michael Gambon a lot of credit on this one. This scene and his acting in it when he's begging Severus is so good, because you so believe it. when he pleads, Severus, please, you're like, oh. And I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, Bo.
No.
That it just.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next time.
Man, it's so good, but it's just like, but this is that one where this is a movie where Severus looks pretty bad. He does the unbreakable curse with Malfoy's mom. He helps Malfoy, and then he essentially kills Dumbledore.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, motherfucker. But it's just it's such a good scene, and all the acting in it with Dumbledore, Michael Gambon. You've got Severus with his why can't I think of his name offhand? Alan Rickman, and then even Draco, Tom Felton. Just the acting in the scene is really tight. Like there's so much emotion going on in it, and it's funny. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about like, hey, give us a death. Feel free to kill a major character. I think they were rooting for Ron personally, but this is one where it was like, the balls to kill off Dumbledore in this story is pretty big because he is like
one of my theories behind that he's not really dead. Don't ruin anything for me or whatever and all that, but it's. But I mean, in a magical world like this, I can never believe anybody's ever really dead.
Good point. Yeah, no, I get you. Except for Sirius. Sirius is really dead, just so you know. Not going to ruin anything for you, but
wow.
I don't believe in movies, period, that anybody could ever really be dead. I don't believe Foggy's dead. I don't believe.
Spoiler for Steve. Oh no, Steve saw that. Never mind.
I saw the death. Yes.
Yeah. But just So this is, I would say, probably the biggest cliffhanger from any of
all the movies for sure.
And it's like
from my perspective, anyway, it is.
Yeah, it's crazy because you're like, oh fuck, what's going on? We get Ron and telling him like, yeah, I'm not coming back to Hogwarts now. I got to go search these Horcrux, which puts us in this whole new thing. Which, oh god, I know what's coming in the next ones, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting, and they wrap it up. But I was just like, I'm wondering if that's what hurt this movie is that second half that led up to all this, and kind of because they had to land on a cliffhanger like this, it didn't wrap up like some of the others.
I still think they could have done something more in the climax, maybe added something that wasn't in the book, expanded on that battle just to elevate the pace a little bit more.
Just put the battle in there. I mean,
or they could have pulled something in from something from the future, right? Just something maybe not as super critical, but just I don't know.
Well, there was a big battle that happened where they had some of the other students, the DA members, and like McGonagal and Flitwick, and all of them were fighting.
You're saying in the book or in the movie?
In the book, they had a bigger battle where
Bill
there was
Weasley was there. He gets slashed up by a werewolf, and
it might have.
Bill Weasley's one of the brothers. Sorry,
we haven't met him in the movie yet. I think he's in the last movie.
That's right. They didn't even have anything with Fleur in this one at all.
Yeah, they bring them back for the final movie, but not. This one.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a fun part in the beginning of the book too, and we'll talk about that later on because it has a big part in the next movie. It's funny. This movie is great to begin with, and then it kind of falls off. I think I might be one of the few, and I know it's right to the book. I know it's very cinematic, but I am bored with the whole getting the Horcrux scene. I was bored in the book too, and I don't know why.
When they're drinking the
water and the what are they called? The zombies from the water. That whole thing, I don't know what it was.
To me, it was so similar to Lord of the Rings that it was a little bit distracting from that standpoint. Other than that, I wasn't bored. I thought it was very well captured in the movie, and I was interested.
It's very but it's well done. But that's what I mean is that's why I'm surprised that I don't care for it as much, is because it is so well shot. It is so close to the book. Like, I don't know why. I'm like, can we just get through
My
this?
favorite stuff in this movie was the relationships between like Harry and Dumbledore, and the way a lot of the dialogue played out. That was what drew me into this movie. I think that really landed.
So And I don't
think a lot of,
speaking of.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Nina. Sorry.
I think you make a good point. No, I think a lot of the thing with the Horcruxes is they're really just kind of MacGuffins. It's like it's like it's like there's these 7 things and we got to find them, and that becomes the story from now on.
True.
It's like they don't really do anything.
I don't know about
that.
I think they're really well explained, especially maybe more so in the books.
I mean, I
The
understand what
books
they are,
explain
but
it.
it's like,
The movies don't. Not necessarily.
but
like
what I'm saying is, like, you have the diary, which they've already destroyed.
Yep.
But, it's like it kind of becomes the same. It's like, find out what the Horcrux is, find out where it is, go find it, destroy it. It just becomes that over and over.
Well, that's.
And it's
I
like,
mean,
they're doing it in different ways and all that, but it's kind of the same arc.
It's all 3 Lord of the Rings movies where that same story, but I guess
Right.
like my thing when they're drinking the liquid, Harry says to him, why can't I drink it? And he goes, because I'm older and I'm cleverer, which I don't know if clever is a word. I guess technically it is, but it doesn't roll off your tongue. But why? I don't understand that. Why? I think it would have made more sense for Harry to have been the one who drank it, because then you have the power of Dumbledore like at the ready. Like, he's a much more experienced wizard, much more experienced, thing, and all Harry has to do is drink the liquid. Like, why does it it doesn't make sense?
The next movie will let you know a little bit more, and I think they talked about it in the book of I think he asked him why, and he explains a little bit why. Because
he only had the little throw off line, I'm older and more clever than you or something, and that's it. And it's like, it just doesn't really, to me, that's not.
Yeah, the book does go into it more
enough.
So if and that's
when I get there.
So much of these movies, they can only put a fraction of what's in the book.
Oh, of course,
just from the nature of what it is. So, but it's not wrong how they present it in the movie. It's just, you want to go in depth, you have questions and stuff, go to the books, and it'll most definitely be there.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
good to know. I'll take that explanation.
Well, did they really? I know in the book it's a big part of it. The ring and the reason Dumbledore's hand was all jacked up. Did they?
It was a throwaway line that the ring. Yeah, that's what happened with his hand and why he was trying to destroy the Horcrux. And even in the book, they don't get too much into it. You get a better idea of what happened, but in the movie it's very, very vague. So, in fact, his hand looks a little bit more like it's just a little discolored, whereas it looks like it sounds like it's more crispy and shriveled and crispy in the book. So
crispy and shriveled.
No, I agree. It is, and it's interesting, and I this is where doing the books and the movies together, everything starts to kind of saturate into one, and you're like, oh, what was one and what was other? And so I think it makes it nice for you, Bo, in one where you only are getting the movies where we're getting, so but then also it's that there's so much behind the scenes that you're missing too. But when the end comes, this will be good, is when you watch it and you get through the next 2, right? When we talk about those, and then you go back and if you ever get a chance to rewatch or just think about them, like, now there's some stuff that happens in the first one that has reference and play in the last all the way through. I think.
Say that again.
They did a good job with tying things, right? Like you talk about the MCU where movies tie into movies and movies tie into other things, and this is one of those ones where I think once you get through all the way through and you start looking back on things, certain things make a little more sense when you look at how the whole story ended.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I'm sure.
But I mean, it goes all the way back to the first movie. Even I think there's not as tight as some of the later movies really tight. But I think even there's trailers that are tendrils that go out to the first and second, third movies that are like, oh, okay, I see where that ties into this, and I see where they're tying this up and putting a bow on it. So,
Gotcha.
cool.
No,
anything-
I was just going to say, I think, I somebody was asking me at work today. I was talking about the podcast, and I was kind of saying how, I haven't seen them before, and all that. And somebody was asking me, well, what do you think of them? Like, what's your thoughts on these, kind of a thing? And I was like, I said, and I didn't really get sucked in until the third one, but they're like I'm drawn in. I'm like really like dying to know what's going to happen next, kind of
right.
thing. I mean, it's I'm definitely intrigued, and I definitely want to find out like where how this is all going to all wrap up. But the other thing is like, is there anything after this? Like, is there, when I say after this,
Nothing good.
No. Yep.
so that's the thing. It's like, I'm curious to see what happens. Like when Malfoy becomes Snape and Harry becomes Dumbledore and blah, blah, blah. And Hermione becomes McGonagall and all that. Like, it's just like all this stuff. Like, I'm dying to see what's going to happen with that, but it's just not. I just feel like it's probably not going to happen.
There's a little epilogue, but I think, and isn't there like a stage play that goes into the Cursed Child?
That's the one I was talking about, the Cursed Child.
Yeah.
I read the book.
We got the script. It's terrible. It's just it's
The play?
It's the play. It's
I don't think there's a book. I think it's just a script.
There is a book. I've read it.
It's
Well, maybe it's the script in the book.
yeah, they might have, but it's just like Harry rejects his own children because he's like they get sorted into Slytherin, and he's like, that's it, no child of mine belongs to Slytherin. It's like, come on, Harry. Yeah.
It's
For half your life you never even heard of this stuff,
it's not what people wanted, right? And
it's
maybe the TV show redo, because I heard they're gonna do like one book through every like our several episodes in a season for one book, so we might get more, which could be nice. I don't know. This, and we'll never get this now because the main author is not not as well received as she used to be. Your best bet is to find a fan fiction of someone that you like what they write, and maybe hope to God that is what you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So, and doing that, you're gonna probably run into a lot of stuff that is just like, oh, people are weird and have their own opinions and are really off.
That's true.
I did Harry Potter snogging as a Google search.
Oh,
and the stuff I saw, I was like, there's some whack motherfuckers out there because.
Well, sure. I'm sure there's a whole sexual underground of.
Yeah, but it's not
everywhere.
what you expect. Yeah, that's what I mean, though, is if you would have thought that was kind of what the main books were off of and stuff like that, it's not. It's depraved and completely off. But that's what they want, and more power to them. I ain't gonna read it.
Yeah, but here's the thing: there's depending what website you go to, like the site that I read, they have them rated E for everyone to.
Oh yeah.
Mature. And so, I think I told you guys when after Infinity War, I was so depressed by how all of the characters disappeared, even though I knew they were coming back. But it was such a downer ending. And I went and read fanfic where Peter Parker and Shuri take all the rest of the Avengers camping. And there's no romance, there's no hanky panky. It's just, silly adventures out, in the mountains, while they're camping. And it was fun. And and you can find stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff that just follows I imagine for Harry Potter, there's a lot of stuff that's like there's nothing worse than the books. Like you would go and it would be like, this is for all ages. It's
Yeah. I wasn't even
call-
thinking that though. I was just thinking good storytelling. I wasn't even I know
Yeah,
you
you
can
have to-
find some seriously off-color, depraved, adult-only shit for sure.
Here's the thing. There is some that's good,
I mean,
but
There's
you
the
have to
internet.
look.
Yeah.
It's the internet. 99% of it is horrifying. But the thing is, if you find a good website, there's a lot of stuff that has ratings.
Yeah.
If you see something like, if like 10,000 people have read it and 99
Like it.
like it, you can assume it's pretty good. Or there's there's groups like it'll be like like people will have like, oh, the 10 best Harry Potter fan fictions about secondary characters. The 10
That's
best,
kind of what I would like to hear is like I said, I would love
Harry
to
and Hermione start dating stories or whatever,
See, that's where I don't want to change the main gist of what the story is. I want to like just give me a day in Neville Longbottom. Like what's his week look like in class? But don't change the base story.
In that case,
Well, that's the thing. You could have a. Sorry, go ahead.
You want something that's called canon compliant.
There we go.
So it's like the base story is not changed, but it's just like, here's what was happening off screen while
yes,
the main
that would be
story
You
cool.
could have a
was going
totally
on.
great series. It was like hour episodes, and it was just like.
Well, and Steve talked about this with his drink, and I think a lot of people actually really like. I listened to a podcast, and they were talking about the one thing that they really enjoyed most, and what they really would love to see more is potions class.
Yeah.
What other potions can we make? What else goes in it? What what's the or charms class or transfiguration?
Yeah.
The different classes. Like, what do you? The only one no one ever wanted to hear was history of magic. We're like, no, fuck that shit. Nobody wants any of that. And they even talk about that in the book. They're like, oh, this is the most boring class ever. I mean, it's taught by a ghost that doesn't even realize that he's dead. He was a teacher who died and just got up the next day and went and taught. It's like, oh my God, how boring can your life be that's literally you die and just don't even realize it and go teach your next class. And so Professor Binns, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of this and a lot of stuff that's not even part of this. But good movie still. I mean, is it the best of the Harry Potter? No. Is it the worst? No. Is it?
I kind of agreed with you that it was like not having seen it in a while and not having read the books in a while. There was a lot that it was like, oh, I forgot how, like some of the ways things were shot were just very beautiful and very interesting.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely worth.
The way it was shot was definitely different. It's very much more sepia, darker,
exactly.
like all that and everything.
Shadows, yeah.
I noticed there were a couple of scenes where like the action like took place like way off in the distance, like like the scene where Snape grabs Malfoy and is like, you have to listen or whatever, and it's like this dark corridor, and they're just like two little silhouettes down at the end. But the thing is, they like come around the corner and there's Harry listening.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really cool shot. And there was other stuff like that too, where it's just like the action is taking place in like a corner of the screen or just like in the background almost.
That just reminded me of another, so the beginning was shot. The whole scenes in the beginning are different than the book too. Like Harry reading the book, the Quibbler, or not the Quibbler, but the paper in the diner, and the girl like flirt with him and him being all smooth with it. That doesn't float well with the rest of the movie too, because he's not really smooth through the rest of it. So it's like, how is he all of a sudden, and Dumbledore, cock blocking him 100%, and then. He's like, oh, I'll just go back and tell her, like he knows what he's doing, but then he gets to school and all of a sudden he forgot how that works. That's the only thing another thing that I was like, well, because it wasn't part of the original book. It gets them to where they're going, but it doesn't really fit as well as far as character. And I was like, oh, but it's shot well and it looks good. If you don't know the real story, you're like, oh, okay, I could see that happening. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else there?
I will say this. You guys can hang on for just 10 more minutes. We'll match the movie length for the podcast. I'm just there's only a few minutes left. They're just doing the wands in the air scene at the
the funeral. So best. So sad. Yeah, we don't always have to beat the movie. It's not always a requirement.
I know. I'm just messing around. We're just so close.
real quick, that funeral scene where they're all holding their wands.
Yeah.
Whenever one of the actors dies in real life, the fans will go to the Harry Potter land at Universal. They'll pick a time,
really?
and they'll all go there and hold their wands up.
That's pretty cool.
It is nice. I did it when Maggie Smith died recently, and I saw some pictures online. They did it when Alan Rickman passed. It's really
the actor that played Hagrid, he just recently passed too. I think they just
and Michael Gamboni didn't. He just.
I don't think they did it for him. I think he already got one in the film, and they said that's enough for you.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I'm sure they did.
I know. I just like picking on him. Anyways, I did read that during the filming of this, Maggie Smith was going through chemo for breast cancer, so she did all her scenes fighting.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And then there was one other, just another sad tale is one of the actors who actually had some lines in it. He was actually killed before the release of the movie, just right before the screening.
Oh, really?
Damn, that sucks.
Which one? Who?
Where did it go? He's a background character. I think he might have been a Quidditch guy, no. You know what? I think he was one of the guys in the Slug Club.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it again, but yeah, I was just like, man, when you go back and look at some of the interesting things that happen on the backside of movies, you're like, oh man, that's crazy. Interesting how this stuff goes. Yeah, I lost the name in here. Let's see if I could. But yeah, no, it was one of those ones I was like, oh, I don't know if I should, and then just bringing up stuff. I'm trying to drag our time out so Bo can be happy.
No, we don't have to. I'm not. I'm just.
Well, I don't want you to take it out on your dog or anything like that.
No, not at all. Not gonna. That's never gonna happen.
Yeah, your dog's bigger than you. He'll whoop your ass. I know it.
It's probably true. He's tried to break my wrist.
Oh.
He does this thing where he drags me around. He grabs my wrist in his hand, and sometimes he turns his head like
he's got a hand in his mouth.
No, he grabs my hand. He grabs my hand in his mouth. Then he'll turn his head 90 degrees, and my bones don't go that way.
Yeah. Here we go. I found it. It's Robert Knox. He played Marcus Belby. Was tragically stabbed to death. Just a few days after the filming wrapped. Wow. I did hear about this story. Apparently, he was out partying with his brothers and stuff like that, and stepped up to defend one of his brothers or friends, and was stabbed to death in a bar. So, but yeah, wow. I think he was one of the guys in the Slug Club when they did all their little "Who's your daddy?" Conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So. All right. Well, if that's all we got, all I can say is this is some mad times we lived in. Mad.
Hail Caesars.
Love you guys.
What does that mean?